Welcome to Malifaux Monday from the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and in a slight change to our planned release, we're going to be looking at some tips and tricks of getting into the wonderful world of Malifaux that we've learned over the past couple of months. Unfortunately, Lillith is still unwell, so we can't complete the battle reports that we plan to put up today, but hopefully they'll be here next week. But being the month of Spooktober, we had to take our trip into Malifaux, and we plan to bring you a video every Monday this month. So let's see how we go. So today we're going to be talking about starter boxes and getting into the game and the different little bits of information which are really useful to know when you are starting out in Malifaux. This of course was a fantastic opportunity to expand our collection. For those of you who've been following along with our adventures into Mali, you'll know that I, being the embodiment of both restraint and mature contemplation, bought 2 masters straight out the gate and have been expanding those like a wild thing, whereas Lillith, being slightly more boring, decided that she would only go for the 1. Until today. So what we're going to be looking at is the different types of boxes that you get to start Malifaux, what you need to know about them, what actually comes in them, so we're going to open this one up in a minute, how they differ, and the other bits and pieces that you'll need to start. So if you are looking to start Malifaux, this is kind of a good way to start, and some little tips and tricks and things that we found that are really important, and some things that we found that aren't so much. So as you can see, this is a core box. For anyone who hasn't seen these before, a core box is a starter box for a specific subset of a faction in Malifaux. So this little symbol here tells you what faction this is for. In this case, this is a Neverborn core box for Pandora, and that's the master, which is the leader of this particular subfaction. And a subfaction in Malifaux is defined by a keyword which is woe. Now that means that if you get additional boxes for Neverborn and they have woe on them, they will work perfectly with Pandora. If you get a Neverborn faction with something like Fae, which is a different type of subfaction for Neverborn, they won't synergize, they won't work together, they won't be quite so tight. You can get units which have versatile here, which means they work with lots of different types of keyword, but from what I've seen, if you want a really tight flowing crew, then sticking to a single keyword is one of the best ways to go. There are exceptions to that, of course, but when you're starting out, that's a good call. So this is a Pandora core box, so that's our master. Woe is our keyword, and each core box comes with your master, a henchman, a totem, an enforcer, and 3 minions. So let's start with these guys. The Sorrows are your basic Munchkin Muppets for Woe. That's the most basic of basic, cheapest units in this box. They do the least scary stuff. Yeah. When we start talking about enforcers, they tend to be a little bit harder and nastier. In this case, Baby Cade. Don't be fooled. Yes, that is a hoof-finger-8 knife in his hand. Not an adversary to be underestimated. Candy is a henchman. Now, a henchman is like a second in command. If you saw our video the other week where we talked about henchman hardcore, which is the sort of starter way of getting into Malifaux, then a henchman can actually lead a crew. So in henchman hardcore, you would take Candy and the 3 Sorrows as your entire force. So they're pretty handy and they can do all sorts of great stuff. Your master is the ultimate badass when it comes to that particular keyword. In this case, Pandora herself. And the poltergeist is her totem, and they will do something that synergizes with the master. The totems can only be taken with that particular master, so they only appear with them, and they buff or support the way that the master works as a general rule. Watch me get slaughtered in comments for this, because I'm still quite new, so we're learning. So that's the core box. When you buy one of these core boxes, and you open this up, this is something that I didn't see a great deal. What you get in the box, let's put that there, are a set of bases for your 7 miniatures to go on, a sprue of miniatures, and your cards. So you have all of the stuff that you need to play Malifaux with this crew out of the box if you have the core stuff to play Malifaux, and that's the important thing. We'll cover that one in a minute. Now you'll see that Malifaux miniatures are plastic. They go together best with super glue in my experience rather than ordinary plastic glue. And as you can see, where are we? These hands, they are incredibly delicate. They are incredibly fine. So if you are a new type of player and you haven't really built many miniatures, these guys will, there we go, that's Baby Cade, it will help you up your game. They are pretty small, pretty detailed. They go together relatively easily. The miniatures don't have a great deal of flash on them. There's not a lot of bits and pieces to remove, but they are very fine. I've only, in this sort of latest moment of building Malifaux miniatures, I managed to break 3 bits of Mizaki, my master for 10 Thunders, when I was building her. She's got these little bits on the back of her neck, and they are so small, and taking them off the sprue, they snapped. I glued them back together, but it still sucks, and that was me being careful. So these are not newbie-friendly miniatures, but my goodness, are they gorgeous when they go together. I mean, you can see the detail on these guys. Look at that face. Oh, it's a face only a Pandora could love, or apparently Lillith. So, there's Candy, the Enforcer. So just these tiny little things, they're amazing. So those are your miniatures. You have the bases they live on, and as you see, there's different sizes. Now, a great hint to know, inside these cards, so here's all the cards, these give you all the stats and abilities of each unit in this box. So this is all of them. As you'll see, there are 3 Sorrows in the box, and there are 3 different Sorrow cards in there, so you can have them separately and track their damage and stuff together. But about bases, on the bottom of the back, they have their base size. So all of these are 30mm, so the smaller ones, apart from the Poltergeist, who's on the 50. So that's a really useful thing to know, and to know that that's there and you've got it to refer to, because I didn't realise that to start off with, and I stuck one of mine on the wrong thing, and then I put a picture up online, and somebody very helpfully went, my goodness, that's beautifully painted. He's on the wrong base. Dang. So these cards you use in game, they work beautifully. I mean, you've got everything from their points cost in Soul Stones, all the way through to their abilities on the front, their health on the front, and their attacks and tactical actions on the back. I mean, these, as cards, work beautifully. It makes the game so much easier to flow and work together. A lot of crews come with upgrade cards, so if a master enables their particular crew to have specific upgrades, they'll come in this set as well and be available for you too. So you just have these laid out on the table in front of you, and you can work your way through, and yeah, I can't say how great they are, to be honest with you, and how impressed I am. Which reminds me, I really have to buy some sort of card protectors as well. Let's just put those away and off the way. There we go. So that's a core box for Lillith, which will probably make her feel immensely better. And when we get on the table, will make me feel immensely worse. So as I say, this is the same core faction, the same Neverborn faction as her Titania, which if you've been keeping up the series, you'll know she's running Titania, but they have a different keyword, so these guys won't go together. Titania and Pandora give her different ways to play. They have a very different style. Let's look at the other types of boxes that you get with Malifaux, because while this is a core box, you have the other type of expansion box to go with it. Now, we don't have another Neverborn, but what we have is one for me. So this is actually an expansion box for Last Blossom. Now I mentioned my Master for 10 Thunders, Mizaki, earlier. her keyword is Last Blossom. So this box here adds in new units to play with her that I can field and will synergize with what she's doing. Yamaziko, if memory serves, is a new henchman. The Katanaka snipers are a new type of minion, which are the lowest of the low, as I mentioned before, and the Katanaka crime bosses, I believe, they're enforcers. But again, with these, as with the core box, in here, we have all the sprues and all the miniatures, all the gorgeousness. So yeah, I mean, look how thick these pieces of plastic are. They're just tiny. They're just amazing. I mean, Weird Miniatures, you design some stunning minis. And I look at them and I fall in love with them, and then I remember I'm the poor one that's got to stick them together as well. Not quite so funny at that point, but they're still pretty. There we go. The dynamism, the poses, and all the rest of these miniatures is great. And a tiny little hand, just great. So I'm a little bit more enthusiastic now because this is one of my crews. But again, minis, bases, and again, the cards. Everything you can ever possibly need. There's the information about the base size on the back, their attacks, all the rest of it. So what you'll commonly do is buy a core box. You can start to learn to play with that. You can play Henchman Hardcore, which, as we've discussed, is a great way to get into the game. And then expand with this type of expansion box. So when you want to expand from a core box like this, all you need to do is track down an expansion box like this with the same keyword on it, and even as a newbie, you are assured that those will go with the equivalent as well. So that's those. The third non-starter box, because there are such things as starter boxes, we don't have one of those unfortunately, but the third standard type of box that you'll see around are these guys. And these are, as I understand it, relatively new. These are expansions of Masters. I think they came out with Malifaux Burns. I think that's the name of the expansion. And essentially what they give you is a different form of a Master that you already own. So my second 10 Thunders Master is Asami. And she normally looks like this. Hopefully that's gone up on the screen. But in this box, you get an alternate sculpt for Asami, and you also get a different card that does a different job. Again, hopefully on screen side by side so you can see the difference. She has different skills, different attacks, different abilities, and plays subtly differently. With this box, Asami and Lady Yume are both 10 Thunders. So we've got the symbol up here. And the Dreamer, that's an alt sculpt of a different Master for Neverborn, which is why it's ended up in our collection, because when Lillith gets round to expanding the Dreamer, who is the third or one of the additional Masters that she could run, she's already got the alt sculpt here, so she doesn't have to wait, which I think was very generous of me, picking that one up for her, because obviously it wasn't about the two that I needed, it's definitely for her. So when you get this type of white box, you'll see that they've got two different faction marks on the front. Check them out, see what's in there. The alt sculpts aren't necessary, they play differently. And when you're learning, when you're starting out, having a different Master that plays a different way is more information to know, more things to learn. So maybe sticking with the basic one that comes in the core box is a great place to start. But I was so in love with Lady Yume, it had to happen. She had to come home. I couldn't do anything about it. I was completely powerless. And as an adult, I have complete control over my spending. I'm glad you noticed. Anyway, so, oh yes, and there's the different keywords. So with 10 Thunders Mizaki, this lady on screen, we have Last Blossom. Sorry, we have Last Blossom. And with Asami, we have Oni, or Oni, depending on how you pronounce it. That's their keywords. So you can see instantly that Asami won't play well with this Crime Syndicate box because they have different keywords. Likewise, This core box, all the units in here, all the miniatures in here are woe. So the Dreamer, who has a nightmare keyword, won't play well with them. So you can field them together, it just won't function. They won't. Malifaux is a lot about triggering things and synergizing your units to achieve a common goal and a common style of play. Mixing and matching your keywords too heavily, although I understand there are some exceptions, as a general rule you're just making your life a lot harder than it needs to be. So that's the 3 types of boxes. So if you're starting out and you decide to pick yourself up a core box, what else do you need? Well, I'm glad you asked. The only things you really need are a tape measure and a fate deck. So one of the great things about Malifaux is it doesn't use dice. In place of dice, you have cards. You have a fate deck, which you can use a standard 52 card deck in place, but they are nowhere near as beautiful as these. And these cards also help you play better, or help you play easier. So we have, I won't go into details because it's detail about how the game plays, but you have a different type of suit. This is Rand's. And the type of card, or the value of card that you draw when you are attacking someone impacts the level of damage that you do, and that's what these pips indicate, with low cards having only 1 and high cards having 3. So having these already pre-marked on the cards like you get with a proper official fate deck speeds up the game, because especially when you're learning, you don't have to remember whether that's, you know, what level of damage it does based on whether it's the Ace of Hearts or the 5 of Spades. So a fate deck I would recommend getting. They're not ridiculously expensive. You are going to use them a lot. And they are pretty. They all contain if you get the official ones, they have the artwork from the game, and it's lovely. I have one for 10 Thunders as well, because of course I do. They're just great. I'd recommend getting those. You'll then need a table to play on, and you're off. So this here, plus an opponent, of course. Playing with yourself is not recommended, you go blind, but this here is sufficient for you to get started. And as I say, a table which is 3 foot by 3 foot, if I remember correctly, with a minimal amount of terrain on there. You can use terrain from other systems, but you know, it's nicer to have the type of terrain that looks good. I mean, Age of Sigmar you could probably get away if you've got that type of fantasy terrain, but if you've got ultra sci-fi, it's going to look a bit weird. But while you're learning the game, it's no problem. So this, an opponent with the equivalent, and you're off, which is not bad. You notice I didn't mention anything about a rule book. The rules and stats and information for Malifaux are available on the app, which is available online. There is a link in the description below, and we'll put a image up of the app here. You can download it for your phone, you can access it online, and then you can build your crews in there. It also contains all the rules and everything that you need to play the game. The app also contains all of the releases of Gaining Grounds, which is the annual release from Weird Miniatures, which gives you updates to mission types, scheme types, and strategies and schemes, which are the mission types, and different ways of deploying for Malifaux. So it's always fresh. If you're playing heavily, then it'll have, you know, a different way for you to play every year, which is great. So those are all available in the app for free, no charge for that at all. However, if you're like me, and this is completely optional, and you're a bit of an old dog, then you can get a hard copy of the rulebook, which I'd recommend just for the lore which exists in this. It's just brilliant. It's lovely. I mentioned it in a previous video, but this will walk you through playing the game. It'll teach you everything you need to know, and I prefer having a physical copy on the table with me that I can flick through. In addition to the rulebook, you can also get faction books like these. So 10 Thunders and Neverborn. These contain lore, but they also contain all of the cards. And at the back, all of the upgrades. Where are we? There we go. For all of the units, all of the different miniatures that exist inside of a faction. The great thing about owning this, great thing about owning these, is when you're getting to know the game and you're looking at your different core boxes, you can flick through here and see all of the cards that exist inside this box. So I think I just saw Pandora. There you go. There's a Sorrow. It's in this box. So we've got some of the lore and we've got a copy of the cards. There's the Poltergeist, there's Candy, and there's Pandora herself. All her lovely gorgeousness and artwork. So these are fantastic for flicking through and getting to know the wider faction in detail and looking at deciding what you want to get next and how you want to expand on it, and as Lillith's other army, Titania. So they're great for that. You can do it via the app, but again, I'm an old dog, I prefer being paws on with this type of thing. So there you go. If you are starting or considering starting with Malifaux, all you do literally need is a core box like this, because it's got all the cards in it, it's got the miniatures in it, you're good to go. Just need a deck of cards, tape measure, and you're off. If you like the books, they are out there. I would recommend them picking them up for the lore and the gorgeousness of it all, but you don't have to. You can play the game perfectly well just with this. It's quite amazing, and as I say, the app, link below, is amazing. If you are looking to get into it, we would recommend you start with Henchman Hardcore, which will see you only using the Henchmen and the minions from a core box like this. I'll put a link up in the corner there for the video we did on Henchman Hardcore, which will walk you through the rough guides of how it works and why it's so amazing. I highly recommend that while you're learning the game. And that's it. Now I guess I better go and build some miniatures and give these to Lillith to paint, because while she's unwell, that gives us something else to do. And hopefully we will see you this time next week with a fantastic battle report that will simply blast your socks across the room, straight through the rift, and over to Malifaux. As ever, thanks for your time, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and consider sharing, and keep an eye out. We will shortly be launching a Patreon for the Dice Gods to get your help in driving the channel forward into the next exciting adventure that we have, which will definitely include Malifaux, as you can tell. Thanks a lot, take care, we'll see you soon.